announced this economic package. So I'm not repeating the statistics. So the predictions are putting India's case, it can be even earlier, it was 5 to 6, and now it is point us even go to 10, the growth rate can fall. And the unemployment again, it is some of the statistics it is putting as CMI, its publication, it has put it as 23.5. That was unemployment, huge unemployment in general. And index of industrial production, all these things. So this was the challenge when this crisis was unfolding, or health crisis was unfolding. Varghese sir?
Yes.
Varghese sir? Yes. How many more minutes I can take? How many more minutes?
You can take 10 minutes more.
Okay, only 10?
10 to 15, no problem.
Okay.
We can move up to 4:30 together with the discussion.
Okay, fine. So now it is 3:54. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is what we call as this Atmanirbhar package, or this self-sufficient India's package. And that story, I think many of you know, that is on May 12th, Prime Minister announced a package which is having worth nearly 21 lakhs, estimated to be 10.5 of our GDP. So 10.5, in fact, is a good package quantity-wise compared to other countries. And what, as we say, what is real impact, or how effective and appropriate the package? We have to decipher this package and to see. So even before May 2012, there were certain announcements in March 27 and April 2017. Certain monetary measures were adopted, announced by the RBI. You know, monetary measures, in fact, is measures that is affecting the cost of credit as well as the availability of credit. That means make available money in the economy, and that is to reduce the rate of interest. And such measures have been adopted in economics. We call it as enhancing, liquidity enhancing measures, and this credit cost reducing measures have been adopted by RBI, and that in fact infused a kind of more than 8 lakhs. And also there were certain announcements on the part of the government in the initial time of this lockdown, that was in March 27, which under the call as the fiscal package, and largely it was a relief package, and that again contained grants or some kind of cash transfers, or that means food, and also certain other kind of insurance, or giving insurance for this workers, certain tax relief. So altogether that comes about this nearly 10 crores. So it is the first ever more than lakhs that was announced in this so-called Atmanirbhar package. Or the package was narrated by the finance minister following announcement by this prime minister, and it is announced consecutive days ending with the May 7, and again the amount that is allocated is clear to you, and it is visible at what is the amount. And what is interesting about this is, or regarding the content, the first day the thrust was on this agriculture. Sorry, it was on small scale sector, or providing liquidity, or other kind of things to these SMEs, which were in a very uh, in a worst situation, having no production, or and their productive activity were almost broken, and revive them, and then that is essentially in the form of providing them with more liquidity, or credit facility. That was the nature of things that was announced. And then the second day, it was of, as you can look in this, that is for these migrant street vendors, others. That was the thrust of the package. And the third day, it was largely of agriculture. And the fourth and fifth day, there was very little as amount. It was policy. It was in the form of making changes, government's involvement in economic activity. So government is taking the core sector. The core sector is made open to the private sector, or in the sense defense, or civil aviation, atomic energy, etc., etc. And that was the thing. And I said, it was the crisis had there. It has these different dimensions, and it was with a great expectation that people have been looking at this announcement. And when launching this Atmanirbhar Bharat, and he was in fact telling we should be local about, local about local self-sufficient India, and then we have to infuse or to our economy and strengthen certain pillars of the economy, like our demography, and again our technology. Also in
Philip, it is not audible. Philip,
yeah, is it now? Is it
audio
now?
is not clear. Little bit loud.
Still? Okay, okay. So anyway,
Now we can hear.
the response, the response was immediate response, as we could read from this stock market behavior, like it was in a negative track. So that is a reflection of, it was a disappointment. That, and why such kind of disappointment, that is linked to actually the content of other package. And there is very from the part of government, it's actually and shortly, or putting differently, largely a non-fiscal stimulus. Governments, from the part of the government, but its expenditure or allocation, it is relatively less. Government is incurring less. That is the kind. So largely it is and that and there is and as when I narrated the nature of the problem, I said it is largely of supply as well as demand, and the demand because of having people do not have the income to buy. And there was very little stimulating in the package to entice this demand. And it is something like the problem that we had is health was in a very precarious status, and the economy was almost in a dilapidated status, and it is in a recession. I'm taking it back, revive. So instead of adopting the needed immediate actions, the thrust was largely on long-term measures. So one thing I like to emphasize, the demand problem is, looking at in economic terms, we say the government is trying to manage the supply side. Supply side means let the private individuals do, and the government is be less regulatory or entrusting the responsibility to the private individuals. Of course, it has role, but in a pandemic state, is it the kind of policy that is? So it is a supply side managed thing rather than a demand. So it has raised certain concerns. What is largely liquidity stimulus thing, how can it be effective? And it is largely in the form of a bailout. And the bailout responsibility is given to the banks, and they have to provide credit, or they have to extend the repayment period, which we call as the moratorium. Whether that will affect their business, would it lead to more non-performing assets situation in the banking sector? And was the right priority that giving thrust for these long-term things rather than overlooking these short-term things? Even though government was very much vocal about the self-reliance or producing local, etc., what at the policy package there was uh, a pampering of or encouraging foreign capital. Is it conflicting whether the government lost a focus and how much sincerity is regarding its self-sufficient kind of things? So when we go for everything to the market, what does it imply? So this kind of questions was being in debate or in the air during this period. And all these concerns, in fact, is really relevant. And why a pandemic, why a situation or this liquidity is provided? Why it may not work? Because buying and protection again is related to our mental situation. That means, how do we look at the market? And why people are not buying? Because they don't have that interest to buy. And they don't have the confidence. And then again, why business people are not starting business or restarting their business? Their sentiments is weak. So the pandemic situation, when they have looked at, they had seen that people don't have the income or no, there is lack of demand. If they produce more, who is there to buy? And again, for the consumers, again, they don't have the income to buy. And the economy is not going to revive immediately. They don't have the income, and whatever having with them, they have to keep it for the coming days. They have less interest for spending. So actually, if government is giving more liquidity or encouraging credit intake and other things, of course, if there is shortage of money, it can create problem. But just by creating money or having money doesn't mean that it can be act as a curing thing. But it has its role. But what is the necessary thing? A demand induced or demand stimulus, if that also has been properly balanced with it or mixed with it, it would have been of a different thing. As I said, the RBI data, what does it show? How the economy is performing. There's still this business sentiments, still this consumer sentiments regarding economy is low. So sentiments regarding low means even though the government is claiming this kind of green shoots, what we find that is really doubtful. Again, there is some kind of addition when we look at this unemployment data. There is a reduction in this unemployment. That in fact is because of certain other reasons, probably the very nature of data. I'm not going to that details, bit technical because we have to wind it up. So almost all the things, this economic situation worsened, job opportunities worsened, income levels decreased. So this is the kind of economic impact or the inferences that we draw regarding this economic impact. Even after the package, this kind of sentiments, instead of being better, they are getting poor. And the price level also, of course, today we found that this price level, in fact, is increased further. So people have less incentive to produce essential spend for non-essential things, non-discretionary things. So industrial outlook, again, it was. So this is the kind of outlook that, in fact, is reflective of what is its impact on this India's business as well as consumption or as well as demand. We some international trade in the sense exports or the receipts, but our payments in the form of imports. So this is a trade surplus, that is the data, but actually what does it signify? It is largely because of fall in demand rather than substantial improvement in exports. And a fall in imports, in fact, that industries that need some kind of inputs or machinery, they are not acquiring it. That again is showing some kind of, it may affect. And regarding this credit intake, as we know, what the banking sector's data shows, people are largely investing in, they are risk aversive, either as business people as well as ultimate consumers. Those are having disposable income. They're keeping their finance or resources in safe mode, that is deposits. While deposit has increased or it is increasing, what does the credit as compared to deposit, its growth is really tough. And that again shows the sentiments, people are risk avertive, and the banking sector, that's going to be find a major trend, that is the responsibilities and trust in the banking sector. People are not doing business, they're not having income, they're not making their repayments properly. Banks income has fallen, then that will lead to what kind of things? A kind of a banking crisis or a increase in non-performing assets, and that will grow. So bringing here is the non-performing assets of the banks, in fact, is increasing. And of course, for the time being, we felt because it's kind of repayment extension or moratorium, other kind of things. There is, and it may go. And as I said, long or that was for economic stability or to increase or transfer income to those in the form of providing them with low space or cost savings and things. So one of the most important product we as creative. So it is something that or giving us breathing space for making personal health and you see that hello.
There is a problem with Philip's connection. He will be back soon.
No audio and video.
His audio and video. There is a problem with his
problem there. No sound from the Philip sir.
There is a problem with his connection. He will be back soon. Meantime, participants, you are requested to make your comments or questions in the chat box. At the end, we shall make the interactive session.
Sir, there are questions in the interactive or chat box. In the interactive session, we can consider that questions.
Philip, are you present? Dr. Philip, is it audible?
No, sir, he is not audible. So we can proceed to next session. In the interactive session, we can again join to us.
Okay, he has come. Dr. Philip, are you ready?
Am I audible? Am I audible?
Now,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
now,
Am
now
I
you are
audible?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Audible.
I shall conclude within 2-3 minutes. Otherwise, we will lose that logic or the sequence what I am putting. So what I'm telling is this unlocking we had done when asymptotic cases situation. We are in the worst situation, and the second place with respect to have second place with respect to that's, and in the rest to new cases. It means what we try
Dr. Phillips, still it is not audible. Your mic is not audible.
Is it now?
It is okay.
Is it audible? Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's audible.
Okay. Sorry for the disturbance. Is it audible, I think? Now. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
sir.
Perfect.
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Perfect.
So the situation, either in the death or in the case of a new addition of cases, we are heading or going to be the first place in the coming days. So worsening of situation, the health crisis in fact is. And then we have the neighboring countries, either Bangladesh or India, Nepal, Nepal, Pakistan, Sri Lanka. What is the situation there? There the death per million population, cases per million population. Cases per population may be comparable, but we are ahead of them. But as regards death, they are in a better position. But they are also having the same kind of problems that we have in practicing social distancing and other things. They also have less educated or illiterate people, and also highly populated places, and all problems are there. Why that happened? Probably that again indicates the health expenditure. The government is playing a higher role in those countries, particularly in Sri Lanka. Even in Bangladesh, even though their health expenditure per GDP out of GDP is less than, total budgetary expenditure is less than what India is having. Out of its budgetary expenditure, it is spending more on health. So it is not this kind of not giving proper importance for health expenditure that is actually worsening the situation. And in the package also, we are not doing that. So what I like to conclude, the economic slide or slowdown is continuing unabatedly. Whatever green shoots, it is not something that we can be enthusiastic about that kind of indicators. In economics, we say, or in the growth story, when we say the kind of recovery, whether it is going to V or U, and it seems that we will have a U type of things, and the sluggishness or the slowness is going to be continued. That is the kind of situation emerge. And some of the situations or the package, in fact, is instead of reducing the degree of this slowness, it is in a way is contributing to that by not having this kind of economic stimulus and trust to this health sector, which is actually the core issue here, and not addressing properly the problems of this then migrants or people in the unorganized sector like that. So all these requires, I think, requires a kind of combining heart with thinking, or a kind of humanitarian consideration, and of course a sensible political leadership, having change in having good orientation. And I hope in the coming days the government will come up with such kind of announcements. And also in a short while the vaccine will come and curative steps were taken on that line, and will have a bright future in the within a short period. With these words, let me conclude. Thank you so much. Sorry for some of the interruptions happened, and
Okay.
probably that is part of this kind of exercises. With these words, I'm concluding. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Philip.
Thank you, sir. Well,
Thank you,
it was a
sir.
well productive session. Thank you for the wonderful session. I hope all the participants in this session got more awareness about the current situation we are facing, and it was so beneficial for all of us. So thanking you for the excellent presentation, sir. You have managed to delivering more ideas in an upbeat and professional manner. Thank you, sir. Now it's the time for the interactive session of our webinar. So all the participants can ask your questions based on the topic. For that, I would like to invite Assistant Professor Anish Kumar AS of Economics Department, Ivanios College.
Good evening to all. Good evening, sir. Philip, sir. Thank you for your wonderful presentation. Sir,
Thank you.
here are some important questions related to our topic. One is from Dr. Girish Chandra Padak, DVN LT Training College, Gorapur, UP.
Okay.
The question, can I read it, sir?
Yeah, you please read.
Please give some suggestions to lower middle class to minimize the impact of economic recession due to COVID-19.
Okay.
Suggestions from your side, sir.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, his name is?
Dr. Girish Chandra Padak, DVN LT Training College, Gorakhpur, UP.
Thank you, Girish, for your question. It's so interesting. So what kind of suggestion for the middle class to face this challenge, or how they have to manage? Of course, the middle class, they are also engaged in different kind of activities. They are in a crisis situation. Their income has, in fact, fallen. And if it is again related to the kind of activities they are engaged, if it is in the organized, like people like teaching or other kind of service activities of the government, or even if it is private, it is organized, probably they may have a flow of income. But for the middle class who are running this kind of enterprises and businesses, or having this kind of industrial activities or agriculture, etc., they may be facing a kind of a fall in their income. But actually, how personally they have to do. In fact, the spending itself has come down. That we needn't give them any kind of a guideline, because that is what the data is showing. That is, people who consume only essential items, but non-essential items they are not consuming. But from the part of the government, what the government can do? Government, in fact, if middle class were found unemployed, some kind of income transfers can be, wage compensation can be think of. And again, from the part of the middle class, this living this income and other things, they have to restructure their work style, I think. That means work from home and other things are now the practice or the norm of the day. And the use of technology. And in fact, one of the positives of this present government is it is in fact promoting that and make use of that. So the conventional or the earlier style of economic engagements, or the way in which engaging in economic activity is to be changed. And that again needs some kind of skilling and some kind of training, etc., from the part of in whichever activity they are. And I think in that way, to some extent, they can confront this unfolding challenge. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Here
Thank
is
you.
one more question. Another question coming from Mr. Manoj KV. The question, how many % service sector decrease next quarter? How many % service sector decrease next quarter? I think
How many
percent service sector decrease to next quarter?
I think it is percentage. What is the percentage of decrease?
And
It is the question is how many percentage decrease in service sector? That is the question. In the
how
next
many
quarter.
positives?
Percentage.
How many?
Okay.
Possibility.
Actually, I said there is lack of data, and the segments that have shown sharp decline is, of course, the tourism sector. And tourism, in fact, is very much linked to transport and then interaction and other things. And another important area is then real estate and then construction. That is slightly picking up. That again has affected. And then trade, of course, have been affected because there is a falling demand that has influenced. But certain service sector areas has shown some improvement. And again, this gig economy, what we call this Uber and other the new generation kind of jobs, they found unemployed. And these are some of the service sector which we again, this financial sector also we have. As I said, it is in a sense in a sort of thread. And again, it is this education that is one of the most important social service we have to say. We know the problems that they are facing. And I needn't elaborate on that. Then health sector, in fact, actually it is in fact providing services and acting as a vital thing in this whole situation. But they are almost in a kind of broken stage, like they are working beyond their capacity and other things. And this is the kind of observation I like to make regarding that question. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Any more questions?
Are we directly allowed to ask a question? Or
Yeah.
Of course.
Hi, sir. This is Shijo. I have a question. Actually, it is two-part. One is we are currently in a very peculiar situation where even the physical or the monetary policies, whatever maybe or stimulus that is being given by the government cannot be utilized because you are in a total lockdown. So there is no cash transaction, or there's a movement in the economy in terms of cash. So it is not generating a demand, or even the supply is also not is affected as well. And also, even if a stimulus is being implemented, for example, in the fishing sector or in the agriculture sector, let's say that sector has some boost, but then you don't have the infrastructure to sustain that. For example, fish and vegetables or agriculture sector are all perishable commodities. So you don't have an infrastructure where you could store them to be used beneficial to the farmers. So that's again, sometimes it doesn't impact the thing. So my question here is, people like you who've been teaching and have been listening to various economies and people, do you suggest any out-of-box ideas that that could be implemented? Not the normal course, any out-of-box ideas that which could lead to some kind of a impact in this current scenario.
I totally agree with what you said, Shiju, for your very interesting and also a challenging type of question, asking for an box kind of suggestion. What the situation at present we know, there is, even if there is demand, supply is not coming. Yeah, that is of course true. But the problem, how I am seeing it is, if whether people have, there are certain things that are already there, and there are people, certain people who are ready to buy that, whether they do have the money to buy it. If money is with certain segments, they may not spend it. But if money is with having people at the lower ladder, in economics we say their marginal propensity to consume or something like that, that is so high. So here we have to address this issue in that manner. That means people who are not spending because they don't have earnings, and they should be provided with more income. And actually, this is not an out of the box or something like that. It is actually some of the prescriptions that we used to make in economics. And I think this kind of transfers can have a role. Am I?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Okay. There is no transfers. There is no out of the box. Here, out of the box or policy level, what we can think is, many have become unemployed. Their condition is so deplorable. These migrants and other people, and their vulnerability. And the government has to adopt certain social security measures, and we know the lack of, or the social protection. And this, in fact, highlights the need of. And in India, we know we don't have, our social protection or social security system is so poor. And this, in fact, calls to be look on this, or give attention to this aspect. And also we have what we call as this demographic dividend and other things. But many people, even though they are ready to work, they don't have the skill.
Yeah.
And they don't have the quality of human capital. And here, the government has to give trust. So the new educational policy, in fact, I think we have to appreciate in that sense, 6% of it is going to be devoted for that. On that side, maybe. I think I cannot have very some perspectives I can sharing the perspective rather than any clear-cut remedy for your query. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yes. Yeah. Any more?
Participants, you just fill up the feedback for after the session. Anish, any more question?
Sir, I have one question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sir, I'm Ian Tony. I have a out of the box question. My question is that although COVID has been affected by the whole world, but I have heard that a country near Australia didn't get that affected by COVID. Is there any chance that tomorrow it can be a superpower on the basis of economy? Because they didn't get that affected by this problem.
The question, is it clear? Dr. Philip, is it clear, the question?
Is that
Please
clear?
repeat the gist of the question.
Okay, I will tell you.
I got it is something related to Australia. Yeah.
It's not Australia, but I told you it's the out of the book question that near, New Zealand, right? The country didn't get affected the COVID-19 crisis. Is there any chance that tourism can grow rather than other countries? And you know that it's one of the globally best countries for tourism. Is there any chance that economy can grow on the basis?
Yeah, of course, that's a very interesting question, particularly when we compare this Australia with India. Their mitigation practice in found positive results, but in Indian case, we don't have. Why? And one of the idea I am with you, the lack of preparedness of the part of India. Preparedness steps. In India, we announced the lockdown, and people have given time only 4 hours. And this lack of preparedness, and we know the other things, whether they're the emerging needs of the people, whether that will be it. And again, when this problem is getting worsened, the migrants were transported to what, or other places or to their countries, and it is not blame.
Sir, it's not audible. Sir.
Dr. Philip, it is not audible. Can have 2 more questions, Anish, relevant questions, 2 more questions when he comes.
Hello, sir. Hello.
You can ask. Philip?
Okay. Hello, Philip, sir. Philip, sir.
You are audible. Okay.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. One question from hello.
Targeted or a comprehensive approach to the
hello.
Myself. Lack of comprehensiveness or a targeted approach, that is one of the reasons. But and also these 2 countries, we know they have a different culture and other things. But when we compare with our neighbors, they have given a 4 days preparation, and then this testing aspect, we know these 2 countries, that was in fact so high. But even and other experts were insisting that test. But how much attention that we had given, and such kind of it's a sort of mismanagement actually. What made the problem worse in India, but the other kind of proper kind of management, well-structured form, with a planned approach, that in fact contributed to there. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hello.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, one more question here.
Yeah.
From the side of our student Kribapi George, she asked, what impact will COVID-19 have on corporate earnings? What impact will COVID-19 have on corporate earnings?
Yeah, corporate earnings, of course, the first, thank you so much for that question. When there is no economic activity or production is falling, their earnings will automatically come down. And again, if there is this situation is continuing, they may reduce their production. And when business or production is reduced, means their income or their returns has come, and proportionately their profit. But that again depends on what kind of corporate that we are talking. Whether we are talking of a corporate which is mostly of this what service based, or which is related to this technical and then skill based or skill imparting, or which could use this providing this technical equipments and other things. But the usual manufacturing sector, which we call can be seen as the consumer goods, and then capital goods, and then also producer goods, or the intermediate goods. So the consumer goods of course, we will find an improvement. So corporates that are working there, they may find some improvement. Again, corporates which are working in this pharmaceutical industry, of course, they will find improvement. Again, corporates that are working in this software development and other technology related things, they may be finding some improvement. And instruction personnel find this kind of form. Corporates in fertilizers, agriculture is demanded, and also they may find a better position. So it all depends on which corporates that we are talking. And as a whole, economy is falling, demand is falling, production is falling. Corporate sector as a whole will be in a difficult stage. And that is in a difficult stage. It will corporates for insurance, and there are chances, and we have to go specifically or detailedly looking at that issue. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes,
Due to
Farid, sir.
time constraint, we come to the conclusion. I request Dr. K.C. Mathai sir to make his reflections on this webinar.
Honorable Grace, Most Reverend Dr. Joshua Ignatius, respected resource person, Professor Dr. M.B. Phillips sir, respected faculty members in and around India and abroad, and dear loving participants. Dear Phillips sir, we have conducted an international webinar on 6th August by our Commerce Tourism Department. The topic is survival, sustenance and hospitality industry post-COVID challenges. Your presentation and the presentation in that webinar is almost close relation with. That's everywhere there is a concern, there is challenges, there is mental distraction, etc. This seminar, I think, a substitute for all that means. Your deliberations on the nature of economic crisis, kind of policy responses, and what kind of cautions have to be taken is enlightening and brainstorming. The international issues, national issues, and regional issues also you have described. Then I have gone through the chat box. The questions and the comments received from Dr. Girish Chandra Padak, Asman from Indonesia, Momida, Ushadishit, Manoj, Shijo, Krupa, and your answer is most relevant and appreciable. Then in my words, I congratulate the Department of Economics and its HOD and the faculty members for selecting a current and relevant topic, COVID-19 pandemic, economic impact and policy responses in India. and choosing a right person and a eminent speaker like you. In the inaugural talk, now also our grace presence is feeling is in our midst. The address by our patron, His Grace, Most Reverend Dr. Joshua Mar Ignatius, shows its importance. His words and thoughts and reflections are inspiring, and the importance for capturing and enhancing computer and communication technology and also the economic pressure faced by all and its impacts. The shared feelings of His Grace is in close connection with the presentation. I appreciate Dr. M.P. Philipsa for your nice presentation and all encouragements. I appreciate the support and cooperation of the management, especially our director, Reverend Father Thomas Puttanparambil. Again, I appreciate the wholehearted cooperation and support of the participants and our students. All this makes this seminar a grand success. This is my reflection. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. All the participants are requested to fill the feedback form, which is provided in the chat box, and e-certificates will be also provided. So now I would invite Father Thomas Puttanparambil, Director of Ivanios College, for the vote of thanks.
His Grace Dr. Joshua Mar Ignatius, patron and manager of this institution, Dr. K.C. Matai sir, principal, respected Dr. Philip sir, Dr. P.K. Varghese sir, head of the department, the man behind this webinar, faculty members, our respected participants, and my dear students. With all hearted gratitude, I speak to you. It's another feather for our college to put on in conducting this webinar. This is all possible because of all your active participation. I'm very much grateful to our patron, who is the man behind of this institution. As an educationist, is always behind us to guide and reach the heights. I'm also grateful to our principal for his committed leadership. I'm very much grateful and extend our heartfelt gratitude to Dr. Philip sir for being kind enough to accept our invitation for this webinar. Thank you, sir. I'm very much grateful from my bottom of heart to all the participants who are from all parts of the world. Thank you all for spending your precious time with us. Thank you. A special thanks to Dr. P.K. Varghese sir, head of the Department of Economics, IQAC coordinator, for his committed service to conduct this webinar in reality. Along with him, I thank Ashwiti teacher, Anish sir, Matthew Varghese sir, rest of the faculty members, and our students who are behind this webinar. So thank you all for being part of it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Acha, for your nice words. Thank you, Pidave, for your wholehearted support and presence. You are present for the whole time attending this seminar. That is an inspiration to us. And thank you, Philip. Dr. Philip is my close friend. We were friends for the last 30 years. And I thank all the participants and my students from different parts of the country as well as from the world are attending this session. Mr. Shijo from Singapore, Binu from America, and many others from other countries. So I take it as a privilege to thank all of them. Thank you one and all for making this webinar a grand success. Thank you, Vidave. So this is the end of this webinar, and we wind up this session. Okay, with the blessing and blessing of our Pidava.
The grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, the love of God, and the communion of the Holy Spirit be with you all in all your fields. The Lord is with you wherever you are, whenever you are, however you are. The Lord is with us. He will take care of us. May God bless all of us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vidave. Thank you.
Thank you all. Everyone kindly hung up.
Yes. One more direction, participants. If you didn't
thank you so much,
fill up the feed box, putting the feedback form, you just fill it now.